Well. The most diabolical haters this side of the Mississippi.
What can I say about your basketball program that hasn't been said about Afghanistan? It's bombed out and depleted. You look like a broke-ass Chris Mack.
Oh, man. Hey. Man, you corny.
I hope all the bad things happen to Mark Pope and only Mark Pope.
Yeah, holla at your boy. Damn, that's hateful.
Why don't you click your heels 3 times and go back to Provo?
Kiss my ass. I'm the biggest hater.
I tried. That's all I got. I'm sorry. I tried. I promised to deliver as Silky Johnson. And I'll be honest, there's something there right now when it comes to this rivalry and when it comes to Louisville and Kentucky basketball that maybe I don't have that villain in me. Maybe I don't, but I know of a hell of a lot of you all do. Stick with us. Now we can talk like fans. What's cooking? Welcome back into Now We Can Talk Like Fans. I'm Justin Sofro. No, I'm not Silky Justin, just Justin Sofro. And I know a lot of you, maybe just a few of you, there are a couple of, I hear you, I see you, you've been noticed, BBN. We get it. I can't make a comment about my team without you all getting upset about the attention not being on your team. So guess what? Today the attention is on your team. We're going to talk about BBN. We're going to talk about Mark Pope. We're going to talk about the job he's done because you all still say that he is the presumptive National Coach of the Year over Pat Kelsey. And I want to talk about that today. Welcome in. If you haven't already, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, go over to the YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Twitter, slide on over to the YouTube channel, hit the like button and all that. We're going to bring you a lot more content in the future. But anyway, I want to get into this conversation as we talk about Mark Pope, as we talk about the great job he's done. And I want to be clear, when it comes to rivaling, maybe especially given like some time working with guys like James Strebel and people at the station at ESPN Louisville, I don't rivalry like I used to. You're not going to get the hate. You're not going to get the vitriol. Maybe one day we can build it back up. Maybe it's going to get close, but it's going to be hard when you have guys like Mark Pope and Pat Kelsey leading these programs. They're very likable guys, and they're very likable to each other. I see more of having a Denny and Joby Hall in the future between these two. It'll be weird because one is this tall and one is that tall. And again, we do the height jokes all the time, but it will be weird seeing them maybe sitting together, recreating that famous poster between the two former legends at Louisville and Kentucky. That being said, there's a bit of consternation when it comes to who is the best coach and who is the best coach of the year, which is also a fantastic thing that we can even have that conversation right now, saying that both teams at their respective schools is the national coach of the year coming out of what they've been able to do in year one for their programs. Now, I made my comments and I talked about a lot about my positioning when it comes to Pat Kelsey and why I believe that he could be the coach of the year, given what's happened at Louisville, given the history of what we've had recently, given the dreck that was Kenny Payne. Now, at the same time, I guess when we talk about National Coach of the Year, it depends. I really want to say the most important key piece is that we're going to talk about what does the award really mean. To me, the National Coach of the Year is just the guy who wins the national title. If you're going to say this is the best coach of the year, is the guy who wins the title. But the award, I believe, is not given out at that point of the season. It's given out before we even know who is going to be crowned champion at the end. A lot of times when it comes to National Coach of the Year, it's construed to mean the guy who had a team that you didn't expect a lot out of, that did a lot more than you really thought they were going to get out of them. Whether that's fair or not, that's typically how I view it. If you want to say it's the best coach with the best team, then absolutely you could have a list full of guys ahead of him. A long list of guys in front of Pat Kelsey. But if we're going to talk about the guy who has done the most and gotten the most out of his team, done the best coaching job, I think Pat Kelsey now, especially given the adjustments that have been made when it comes to the players that are out there, the players that have been lost, the situation the last couple of years before it, has a good argument. But most importantly, for this video, and the reason I'm wearing the blue, I'm being fair to BBN. This is a blue cardigan today. It's a blue cardigan day. The red cardigan's for UofL. We're going to talk about why Mark Pope potentially could be the coach of the year. And I'll be honest, given the way the season started out, I am extremely high on the job that Mark Pope is doing. If we want to rewind and go back to April, around that time when Mark Pope was being hired, we all know the talk that was out there, and I expected Kentucky to get a great coach, to get a coach that has been established with a high name. The same thing that I complained about when it came to getting Pat Kelsey and not getting, Scott Drew again at that point in time is the same thing that Kentucky did. I even made the argument, it was wild to me that Kentucky Mitch Barnhart went out and hired Mark Pope, and they didn't even get their Chris Mack. And maybe that really speaks to the change in times that we have now. Or maybe Mitch Barnhart is a freaking wizard. I don't know. I don't know what it is at this point. He does make some pretty damn good hires. We'll talk about Mark Stoops on the channel eventually. There's a lot to get into there because it's been up and down with your boy. Probably more ways than one. I'll be honest. As a Louisville fan, I sneered. I smirked. I was happy. I was pretty. I was enjoying myself. When all the UK fans had to react to the idea that they are hiring Mark Pope back in April. I loved it. I ate it up. And you know why? It's because it's easy to say. I thought you all Kenny Payne'd yourself. And Kenny Payne is a special case. He is the worst coach of any sport of all time. If he wasn't a plant, I don't know what he was. Because I think you have to work to be that bad. But at the same time, if I were to look at Mark Pope, I just worry the reason I say you Kenny Payne yourself is you get a former player that you're going to be handcuffed to because you know darn good that they are not going to be easy to move away from once it comes to. You saw why we got a year 2 after 4-28. And Mark Pope comes in. And I looked at it and I was like, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be the same. And the season rolls around. And we saw the recruiting. Everybody made the jokes. I made the jokes. A lot of your players look a lot like me. Well, not like me, but like me in some way. I don't know what I'm saying, but like me. And I was not a believer. I was not a believer that the man who failed to make it in the second round, the guy who finished 5th place in the Big 12, while yes, he did have to work with a lot of BYU guys, was going to be the next great thing in Kentucky. And I was also not a believer when it came to John Calipari that he needed to leave. So I get it. You're going to say that I can't do it. Data changed in John Calipari. I see that now. But when you look at John Calipari and the misfortunes that are happening over there at Arkansas and how much of a mess it is, maybe Kentucky fans knew what they were talking about. And then we get into this, and we get into the job that Mark Pope has done, which having a difficult stretch, maybe not the most difficult stretch in the world, but a difficult early term there at Kentucky. Having to play Duke in the Champions Classic and pulling that off is a phenomenal work, especially when we see what they've done to some teams as of late, especially the Pittsburgh team that Louisville just played. You go on and you see them lose on the road at Clemson, and that was something to me that I just looked back and I was like, okay, you beat Duke, but you lose to Clemson. What's going on there? We continue to see it develop, and Kentucky pulls out another miracle, beating Gonzaga. Maybe not the Gonzaga of old, but beating a top 10 Gonzaga. They continue on, beating Louisville in a difficult situation. And if you want to take that at face value and just say beating Louisville is the reason that Mark Pope should be the national coach of the year over Pat Kelsey, I think that's asinine. That does not equate 1-to-1 when we're talking about the different circumstances these programs were set in. You bring in Mark Pope, and your expectation is you were told that the reason you were moving on from John Calipari was to make it to the second weekend in the tournament. That can still very well possibly happen. Maybe it will. Maybe it's more likely. I don't know. But the reason that I lean a little bit more toward one guy than the other has a lot to do with scheduling. And it's unfortunate. I mean, there's great ways that this could lead for the Kentucky program. Maybe Mark Pope runs roughshod over the SEC, the greatest SEC we've seen in my lifetime. The greatest combination of talent and coaches that the SEC basketball has ever seen. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But as it stands right now, Kentucky does have a really, really good thing to lean onto when it comes to Mark Pope. And outside of just him being a great person overall, I've seen the video of him with the fans up in the stands, taking time out for them. It's hard not to love him. I get it. I'm a Louisville fan. And by golly, I like Mark Pope. Whatever the egg that was laid against Ohio State, just getting blasted by 20 to Ohio State there was one of those, another moments that like it brought me pause. Because this reminds me a lot of, I don't want to say early John Calipari, but first half John Calipari, a lot of good, but then there's some bad that just doesn't make sense. A lot of stuff that they used to lose to a lot of bad teams in the SEC. The teams like South Carolina that were not that great. The teams like Georgia that they just lost to. They're fine teams, but they're not the best teams. They're not the teams that I expect anybody to struggle against. Not in my opinion. At least not what I've seen. And then you move into the week that you've had recently. A fantastic, amazing win over Florida. And then you see the Florida team follow it up by crushing Tennessee, the team that I thought was the best team in the nation. Of course, I don't believe in Rick Barnes, and I never will believe in Rick Barnes. But at the same time, I think that is a great team. I'm looking at the two schedules that I have ahead of them, and fair or not, I think regardless of how difficult and how easy Louisville's schedule is, you look at Louisville's schedule, and by God, I mean, look at those games that are left now, and I can't believe I'm saying I expect Louisville that they should be favored to win every single one of those games now at this point. And then I look over at Kentucky's schedule, and what games do you win? What games do you lose? I don't know. Because Buzz Williams is a great coach. They could lose that game this early, very, very soon. You have Alabama, who I one of my favorite coaches that is currently coaching, that I think is one of the best in the game right now, who I wanted Nate Oates to be at Louisville, who I even understand Kentucky fans that wanted him to be there while we were begging for all these coaches. You still got to play Tennessee. 8 games against top 25 teams that you have to play. A lot of them on the road. My personal opinion is not that I think that Pat Kelsey is a much better coach than Mark Pope, but I'm saying when it comes to the award of winning National Coach of the Year, who is most likely to do it, given what they've done and given what they can still accomplish. Mark Pope has a lot of opportunities, but he's got a lot of opportunities to falter. And right now we're going to talk about where Kentucky was and where Louisville was before the season started, before they hired these coaches. Kentucky was up here. Louisville was in the farthest depths that I've ever seen. At the same time, I had the way I fanned was said that they both kind of should be starting near the same place because they had both brand new coaches and they both have brand new players they're getting and all that yada, yada, yada. So I guess it really depends where you want to say it. I think right now, and I know while playing this devil's advocate game, I should give some hot take and say, it's Pat Kelsey. You bums in Big Blue are all wrong. You've never been right. You have no idea what you're talking about. Mark Pope is going to be a bum. He's going to be proven to be a fraud. Yada, yada, yada. Cut that, clip that, whatever. I didn't mean any of that. I personally think Mark Pope is a great coach. He's immensely impressed me, and I think he probably is the right choice for Kentucky moving forward. And how cool is that to have a former player who can actually live up to their legacy and live up to them being a coach and continuing to try to improve the legacy of your program. At the end of the day, I think because of what lays ahead of Mark Pope, and I haven't even drank that much of this. I haven't drank that much of this to say all these nice things to you all. But that's my personal opinion. I think Mark Pope is a hell of a coach. And he's a hell of a person, too. I just think Pat Kelsey, at this point in time, has a better opportunity and better chance to end the season with a record that'll look a little bit more to push him over the edge of getting National Coach of the Year. Could somebody else come out and steal it? Maybe, possibly. But I think overall, actually, all eyes are on the Bluegrass State. And that's something I didn't think I'd be able to say for a long time, maybe because Louisville wasn't pulling their weight. But now that both teams have made what looks like great choices and great moves and great future plans for their program, it's fantastic to say that the college basketball landscape and the college basketball world is staring right at you, right at Big Blue Nation, right at UofL fans, and right about what these programs are doing moving forward. I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. Am I wrong in my take? Do you understand what I'm saying? Or are you really just going to say it's Mark Pope because I'm Big Blue and that's all that's going to happen? That's all we're going to do here. And that's fine. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below. Hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. Make sure if you're watching somewhere else, go over to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Really helps to have your all support. And I appreciate all your support for the last video that I did as well. You can follow me at Justin Sofro, Twitter. I'm going to probably move Instagram at the bottom. It's a little personal. You can follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter and subscribe over there. We'll see you guys next time. Glad that we could talk like fans. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go put water in Mitch Barnhart's mother's dish.